Alright, so if you guys missed the last video, I am currently in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm here for Sundance Film Festival. I'm going to do my best to kind of get more regular videos out while I'm here. It's just going to depend on like how much time I have for editing, recording, because it's for the most part going to be entire full days of watching movies, running to movies, so I don't exactly know how much time I'm going to have, but there's kind of... This was kind of like an update. This has been a story that's been going on for a while. I don't think I ever ended up making a video about it. I've talked about it on stream, and I think it's one of the most like wild things that is going on in our world right now, and that is China's social credit system. Now, they're denying the connection, but you know, like Black Mirror, it's like that entire series. It's on Netflix. It's like episodic, so every different episode is completely unrelated to every other episode, and they're largely techno thrillers of stuff that like could happen, or stuff that just seems like really kind of just, it's kind of realistic, but it's just slightly out of touch and at the same time extremely unrealistic. Well, one of those episodes was called Nosedive, and it was about the same premise. It's people had social credit scores, or just credit scores in general, where depending on how you interacted with people, the things you did in your life, you would get a different rating score. And if you had a higher rating score, things were going better for you in life. And if you had a lower credit score, that would start affecting how people interacted with you, and you couldn't do certain things or go certain places if your score was below a certain threshold. And most people kind of saw that as, I could see society maybe going that way, or, that's a really clever way to point out how people, value themselves based on, how many likes they get on a Twitter post, or how many likes they get on a video, or how much interaction they get on something, and just the whole idea of like, like social media points and internet points, and how people can value themselves based on that. Then China comes in, is like, but actually, we're gonna really do it. And while some people might think this is a new thing that they're just planning to have fully implemented by 2020, this is actually something that they have allegedly been developing since 1999. China, since 1999, was like, how can we hold our general public accountable for everything they've ever done? In come the social credit scores. So this has kind of been going on for a while. It's something that they're going to start testing in a lot of the major districts in China. And on one scale, it might seem to some people that it's normal and fine. It's like, okay, well, if somebody's like a criminal, like it would be great if I had an app that I could see that somebody had been previously arrested for like diddling kids. That'd be great, except for the fact that it's going to lump in people who were drunk one day and maybe like peed on a bush. Those people are all going to be on the same app. You're literally going to be held accountable to the same level as people who aren't paying their taxes, who aren't listening to basic rules on public transit. And it's like, so there's really, while I'm sure there will be differentiating factors of like, you're obviously going to have a significantly lower score depending on the type of crime you committed. But it literally says that as of like right now, 6,000 people who have failed to pay their taxes or just misbehaved on public transport. And that could range from anything. That could just be somebody having a bad day yelling at somebody, and that could be, somebody attacking somebody on a train. There's really no differentiation there, but 6,000 people have been barred from taking planes and trains in or out of the country just between June and January. That is a lot of people, and that's all based on this social credit system. This isn't necessarily, based on people who have active warrants against them, who have actively need to, pay for certain crimes. This could be people who have done the time for their crimes that are now being barred from doing certain things. Obviously you want people to pay their taxes, but like misbehaving on public transport, that's pretty extreme. And it's pushing further and further towards this. They've literally started implementing more like facial recognition features. So there's actually a website that you can look at that'll show live time kind of what's happening as people walk by. One of the new things that a WeChat app actually just implemented, which is why this kind of recently popped back up in the news, is that they literally are making it so that users can report people who have unpaid debts. And that doesn't necessarily just mean unpaid debts to like the government, that's just unpaid debts to other people. And I'm not really clear on what kind of proof they have to provide to say that, this specific individual, has an outstanding debt. But it doesn't stop them from putting them on a map. And depending on what radius you're in, when you're looking at that map, it'll be like red if there's a lot of people who haven't paid debts, and it'll be blue if there's not that many people who haven't paid debts. And for one, their argument that it's going to make people feel safer is kind of wrong, because you're just going to walk into these certain areas and just suddenly start seeing red, and it's just going to make people feel less safe, even though unpaid debts isn't necessarily something that you should feel afraid of. And the other kind of scary thing about that, though, from the side of the person who might have unpaid debts, is that it is allegedly, when you tap on names, showing like partial addresses and just personal information like that, so that there's a really good chance that people could find out where you live and cause harm to you. And I get it, pay back your debts, but there's a certain level of, immorality going on here that's very concerning. And they can try to say that it's to make a better China, but in my opinion, it just kind of plays into their whole like control play. If you really look into a lot of the stuff that's going on with China, they make some absolutely incredible technological advancements and do a lot of stuff that's great, but then they still have a president who is so offended by being compared to Winnie the Pooh that people can be arrested for comparing him to Winnie the Pooh, and that Winnie the Pooh is banned in China, and because we all know that the one way to get people to stop doing things is to tell them not to do it. That always works. That always works.
He has clamped down noticeably on any form of dissent whatsoever.
There is dissent online, and China's censors are working hard to quash it. They temporarily banned the use of phrases such as personality cult and my emperor, and also references to Winnie the Pooh, a character long used to mock Xi Jinping based on an apparent resemblance.
It's true. It's true. Apparently, Xi Jinping is very sensitive about his perceived resemblance to Winnie the Pooh. And I'm not even sure it's that strong a resemblance, to be honest. But the fact he's annoyed about it means people will never stop bringing it up. Trust me, Xi, if your face even remotely resembles that of a beloved cartoon character, the smart move here is to lean in. And clamping down on Winnie the Pooh comparisons doesn't exactly project strength.
Now, I am seeing other numbers here that are saying that 18 million people have been banned from flying and 5.5 million people are unable to purchase high-speed rail tickets. And that's actually according to China's Enforcement Information Disclosure website. So this is actually something that's being provided by the Chinese government. And to them, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So it's basically, you're restricting your citizens' rights because they're, in some cases they are committing genuine crimes and they should have to pay for those crimes. But in other times it's just people acting in an undesirable way, in a way that doesn't fit the status quo that they want for China. You could probably, if you found a way to get around some of the internet restrictions that go on in China, that could land you on one of these lists and prevent you from traveling outside the country or traveling to different places. And it's only going to get worse. If this is how it is now, when it's still in its testing phase, when it's China, I don't see it going in a better direction. I just see it going in a more strict direction. And it's kind of really concerning, especially with this deadbeat map, because it is encouraging people to take the law into their own hands. It's encouraging people to try to hold their fellow citizens accountable, which in some situations you could argue is a good thing, but in other situations it's just going to cause a lot of exploitation situations. And it's kind of scary. Actually, it's really scary. And that instead of just being sent to jail if you commit an actual crime, the world you live in basically becomes a prison. You get so restricted in what you can do in a day-to-day life that, what's the point? Now, I do find it funny that they specifically do not want it compared to the Black Mirror episode. So Lynn rejects any comparison with the episode of the British television series Black Mirror, in which society is controlled by social credit rating. He refutes the idea of nationwide individual notion. We're not doing that, even though we do go further than the standard solvency assessment. All kinds of data are gathered over time about a given individual organization. What that does, thanks to the new criteria, is to enable exemplary individuals or businesses with no economic history to have access to credit, calls for tenders, and much else. That is not accurate, because there's literally more that's been going on in the restriction side of things than in the benefit side of things. And again, people are being restricted for doing very, very basic things that aren't crimes. They're just seen as undesirable behavior. So this whole argument is basically we're not like Black Mirror, but we're actually more sophisticated than that system, and we literally do comb through people's social media, everything they've done online. So it's not just from this point on you're being judged. It's we're gonna look back at everything you've done, and that's gonna give you that base rating. which is really, really terrifying. So let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section down below. Do you agree that it's nothing like the Black Mirror episode that it's clearly like? Are there other Black Mirror episodes that you guys have seen that you kind of see mirroring somewheres in the world, or that you could see being mirrored somewheres in the world? Let me know down below. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. We'll catch you all later.